was so bad that when we got involved as the world, that at that time, they, the world, had come together and established human rights. And those rights were meant for everyone. And they were meant to be upheld by the world. Now, I don't know what happened along the way. The world lost the big picture, but these rights are not being upheld. So we, as individual countries and people, have to do something about it. And it's not the first time that we've gone off as Canada to help those in need. The situation in Kosovo was no better or worse than what's happening now. And at that time, the Security Council denied them help. And you know what? Some very good countries, including Canada, part of NATO, decided to go ahead and help those who needed help. And today, because of that intervention, you have a society, a people who have independence, respect, and are building a wonderful world for themselves. And many, many, many people said in interviews from the Kosovo group that they are alive today because of that intervention. So, if we can help them, we can help the people of Rohingya. We do have the power. Now, I would like to pass over to Brother Essen as well to add his thoughts to why he's here for the Myanmar people, the Rohingyas. And after that, I will so excitedly introduce one of our best speakers. He's amazing, Elder Alan Knockwood. But here's Brother Essen.
Thank you so much, everybody. Dear friends, thank you so much for coming. It's a very, you know why we all are here. There's a humanitarian crisis unfolding in Myanmar, and lots of people are suffering. Close to 1 million people are homeless now. The first time I have been to a refugee camp in the southern part of Bangladesh, and that was probably 17, 18 years ago. And this recent spike of crisis that we see, and that's why it's important to recognize that this is not the first time that it has been happening. It happened for the last several decades. Bangladesh has signed MOU to repatriate the Rohingyas, living in a dire situation in Bangladesh back in the 1990s. But it's not happening. The violence still continues, and that's what we see here. More than 800,000 people are already there, living in abject situations. They don't have medicine, they don't have drinking water, they don't have food. So some of us are organizing days with support from all over to raise awareness on this issue, because it is very important that we recognize that this is a humanitarian crisis and this crimes against humanity is happening there. It has already been branded as, obviously, ethnic cleansing and genocide is well accepted for these people, Rohingya minority Muslim people in Myanmar. So we are very glad we'll be talking in between, but we have a lot of wonderful people who are here. So I'm glad that we all are here. Let's hear each other and let's do the best we can do. Thank you so much.
So we should have started off right from the beginning declaring we are unceded Mi'kmaq territory. And we are very grateful to be here, to be allowed to flourish and grow and raise our families in peace. In that honor, I would like to invite Elder Alan Knockwood, who is an elder from Indian Brook. He's a pipe carrier and a human rights activist for the last 43 years. He doesn't like elaborate introduction and is a humble worker for peace. Alan Knockwood.
She said I've been working for 43 I am a survivor. I was into school. Attempt.
There we go.
Attempts at ethnic cleansing. We're still here. You're walking on unceded territory. It's unceded territory because we gave you a place to live. We gave it up voluntarily. The only thing we exchanged was peace. Peace and friendship. I've been working towards peace, friendship throughout the world because we know it works. My elders taught us that this land is not ours. It's not yours. But it's land that we can share. Not just this land, but this very earth we're standing on. Peace is so hard to obtain, but once you have it in your hand, you have to hold on to it. When a people's are being cleansed, quote unquote, we have to stand up for them, because obviously they've lost a voice. So we have to be their voice, and we can be their voice. So I urge each and every one of you to do three things. One, listen to the people who are coming up behind you. They are living proof of what's going on right now. Two, your voice is important. Talk to your MLAs. Talk to your chief of council. Talk to whoever is in power so that word can go up to the heads of Canada and indeed the United States to help and intervene and stop this incredible join me in the words I need to say to our leader. Great Spirit, we've seen that we, as Nigama Pakungu, are survivors of this territory. Bring forth that power to them who have lost theirs in their territory. Help us bring about peace. It's in our hearts. It's possible. With your help, we can do this. Without help.
Thank you so much, Alan. I just want to say, Canada is not perfect. We have our own share of criminal acts that we're responsible for. But it is heartening to see those who have suffered the most in our wonderful country come forward to speak for the rights of others while they're still waiting for theirs to be acknowledged. I'm going to pass the microphone to Brother Essen, and we'll have our next wonderful speaker.
Thank you so much, Elder Allen, for raising so many important issues. And on that line, I mean, we have a wonderful line of public representatives with us. Why don't we start with our councillor for District 12, Richard Zuraski, and I would invite him to come and say a few words.
Thank you so much. In many ways, I think looking at the diversity of the people that have turned out for this gives me so much optimism I'm an immigrant. I came to Canada when I was a little boy, and there was so many good things that led to us having a good life. But we've got, as Rana said, so far to go. And the first thing that we have to realize that probably the first and greatest of the genocides that took place was that of the North American genocide to the indigenous people of North America when the Europeans first arrived here. And I think this learning process is something that we have to recognize and realize that we somehow have not been able to solve the problem of our conflict. And what Canada offers us is a place of refuge where we can look at the positive things that we have and work together, coming from many different parts of the world, to make this an even better place. Halifax is just beginning to look at the impact, the wonderful impact that people from other countries, other cultures can have. And I think this is a testament to the diversity of Canada and how we can push out our perspectives to help solve the problems that are endemic in the world. What's happening to the Rohingya, what happened in Yugoslavia, what happened in Chile, what happened to the North American indigenous people, and what happened in the Shoah during the Second World War, the Armenians because of the Turks. All of those differences can be solved, and I believe us coming together like this and recognizing that we're all in this together, that we're working in this together, is the first step. And I am ever so grateful to represent you as a public official and to be able to be here to talk with you and to give you my commitment to work towards that end. And last but not least, I would like to also recognize that this is unceded Mi'kmaq territory, and the genocide that took place beginning 500 years ago. And I think it's important that we realize that and also learn from that. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Richard. It gives us hope when we see that our political leaders are part of our activism and promise to do something about the things that concern us the most. But we need more than promises. We need actual action as well, and we're hoping you'll take this forward. Next, I would like to introduce someone who really needs no introduction whatsoever, the very lovely Elle Jones, who is a poet laureate of Halifax and a community advocate and the Nancy's Chair of Women's Studies at Mount St. Vincent.
Thank you, Rana. I'm really glad that people, I'm always honored when people invite you to speak with them. Are we good now? Okay, sorry, my apologies. I was saying that it's always an honor when people ask for your voice on their behalf, so I'm really grateful that people have asked me here to speak with them today. I wrote a poem. Dear Aung San Suu Kyi, we called you the lady, prayed for you daily, that you would be free and blessed, wrote letters protesting that you be released from house arrest. We marched for you in the blazing sun and in the wet. Your Nobel Prize felt like a victory for all the oppressed. When they wouldn't let your husband visit you on his deathbed, we wept for you. Hearts broke for your two sons growing up apart. People died in marches on your behalf. Oh, how we admired you. People inspired by you rose up for freedom as in they were streets, and as they were in the streets bleeding, they were reading your words. It was worth it for the sake of building new worlds. We felt you by our side. Felt that you shared the struggle and the sacrifice. You lit fires in the minds and souls of people fighting for justice all across the globe. And in that hope, we marched in your name under signs and posters. On your release, we believed that lives would change. A new dawn would rise. The tides would finally turn. In Rohingya villages, they yearn to earn their freedom in return, to be allowed into schools, to learn an end to forced labor, the right to free movement, to have as many children as they're choosing. People call them the world's most persecuted. Aung San Suu Kyi in power, they thought, will surely support some improvements. How, with your history, could you not be concerned? And now Rohingya villages burn while you watch silently. At first, we waited for you to speak, still believing that if you knew, surely your conscience would be moved. Surely a woman who suffered such abuse could only weep to see the news of babies starving without food. She has proved her thirst for justice. We thought she will come soon for the Rohingya too. Her hands may be tied, but a new dawn will rise. The tides will finally turn. Your government called them clearance operations. Military troops fanned out across the state. They used gang rape as a weapon. We heard about the torture and illegal detention, violence, arrests, death, and displacement. Systematic use of sexual assault is how the reports explained it. You have never even visited to see the situation. People fleeing in desperation, leaving behind houses with bookcases where your book rests. We see the suffering in the press, refugees flooding across the borders into Bangladesh, reports of helicopters gunning crowds of civilians down, the mosques burned to the ground, the people rounded up, the refugee camps where human rights abuses abound. The army shot at people huddled in boats when the guns had them surrounded. And yet, you tell the world the allegations are unfounded. You won't let observers in the area so the dead remain uncounted. Just some necessary measures in a security crackdown. And now the world is standing here and we are calling you to account. Do you think of your own children as the troops throw babies into burning houses? Do you think of the woman being mounted by soldiers when you look in the mirror at the face that they waved on posters? Do you cry for yourself while women are being violated? There are 10-year-old children being detained. They claim their confessions have been legally obtained, and there's 75-year-old woman sharing that fate. Is there anywhere in your heart that is bearing that weight? Are you carving this into the Nobel Prize that bears your name? Do you think of your own family grieving while you give other families back the same? Does your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth when you look cameras in the face? You claim terrorism to blame the victims for their fate. For shame, Aung San Suu Kyi, for shame. When you spoke to the media, you denied the Rohingya even their name. The crimes of genocide over which you preside are now what your legacy provides. You stood in front of the world and you lied. Do you hold your own dark nights around you to justify it? You take the side of soldiers and police. We once believed in you. We once all grieved with you, but now we pray for you. Because what can we even say to you? You don't hear the testimony of the nearly million displaced when we try to show the graves to you. You just turn away. So now we say goodbye to you. We called your election the dawning of a new day, the start of a new world, the turning of the tides. But Aung San Suu Kyi, you stopped your ears and you refuse to hear the cries. So goodbye.
Thank you, Al. Nothing is more moving than words. Words can paint a picture far beyond what we can imagine. And I want to say thank you once again, Al, for bringing to light a topic that has missed many of us, but for creating that image that will haunt some of us for a long time. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Al. I mean, this is so much moving. I mean, you summarize what's happening in Myanmar, in Bangladesh, and how people are suffering. So, and they're living in such a harsh conditions. They are fleeing for their lives. This group of ethnic minorities called Rohingyas, just to remind everyone that even though the Myanmar government has been claiming that they are not really Burmese people, but realize that these people have been living there for centuries. They are there. There are so many in history. There's so many Rohingya, for instance, member of parliaments in there. They have been there. So just suddenly to claim that they're not Burmese enough and they are Bengalis just coming from other places is not the right representation of them. So while we're talking about information, but why don't we start with someone else, another speaker? And at this point, I invite Bruce Holland, former MLA and cabinet minister in Nova Scotia, to come and say a few words.
Thank you, Brother Mohammed. It's a pleasure being here today, and I want to thank Andy Fillmore, our MP for Halifax, for being here, because it's important that he bring the message that he's hearing today back to Ottawa for us, and I'm sure he'll speak to that before the end of the day. I want to qualify my remarks by saying, I have a great appreciation for all peaceful religions. And I would like to go on and talk about the words of Deuteronomy when he said, talked about the commandments. And he said to love God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your spirit. And secondly, he said, and just as important is the second commandment, to love your neighbor. And our neighbor is not just across the street. Our neighbor is across the oceans and in other lands. And the Rohingya are our neighbors. And it's important that we show our love for those people. Show our love today and in the future, and continue to show it until they are repatriated back to their lands. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your support for this very important issue. And please, let's not forget about it after today. Let's continue to talk to our MPs, talk to our leaders, and ask them to please move this issue forward so that people can get back to their homes and live peacefully like we have the honor of doing here in Canada. Thank you, Mohammed. I appreciate the opportunity of being here today, and I look forward to the rest of the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Mr. Holland, for being here. Your words, and especially the association of what's also written in the Bible, I want to bring to light no true religion and no true follower of any religion will commit the atrocities or kill innocent for any reason whatsoever. There's absolutely no religion on this planet that promotes that. And those who engage in the name of religion are not religious followers. They have their own agendas. I'm going to put forward what some of the demands that we are putting forward in unison. I want to point out this rally is one of many that's happening across the nation and US. So we are all coming together on the same day in different forms, trying to put this together. So you guys are not alone, we are united. So our first demand would be that we continue to demand for the deployment of peacekeeping forces. In mid-September, we already knew that 50% of the villages were burned to the ground, and as it was confirmed by Amnesty, satellite imageries, and even ironically proclaimed by the Burmese regime that does not want the Rohingyas to return, by now this number would be well over 60 to 70%. There are no reports there as yet regarding the new figure. In the face of a genocide that is unfolding before our eyes, we need to at least protect those that remain alive. We must send peacekeeping troops to protect the remaining few villages and to protect an entire ethnicity from being eliminated. This has been advocated by Mr. Lloyd Axworthy, a former cabinet minister, as well as by Alan Rock, a former Canadian ambassador to the UN. Now, there are many links that you can go to educate yourself further. They're also adding that we need to iterate that in the light of the fact that China and Russia will inevitably veto a UN Security Council motion for peacekeeping mission in Myanmar, Canada and its allies should form a coalition of peacekeepers and deploy to northwestern Rakhine. Canada can take a lead on this initiative. We already have a history of championing peacekeeping initiatives in the past. From Lester Pearson's achievements in the 1950s to the championing of the R2P in early 2000s. Also, it's very important that since our government came to power, it was, as I had mentioned before, with promises of a peacekeeping mission that has not yet been fulfilled, and also of bringing in our Syrian refugees. Up next is an attestament that good people are unified, because we have Richard Heisinger, who represents Shambhala, an international organization dedicated to enlightened society and meditation, whose capital is in Halifax. Richard holds several senior leadership roles within the Shambhala tradition. Here in Halifax and internationally, he studies, teaches, and practices the warrior's path of decent human society. Richard.
My friend Jackie is going to hold the mic because I want to read something to you. I'm going to read a letter that the Shambhala Board of Directors wrote to the government-anointed Buddhist monastic organization in Myanmar. Dear Chairman Bama Sayadaw, venerable monks, elders, and respected leaders, I am writing to you on behalf of the Shambhala community as leaders and venerable teachers in the global family inspired by the teachings of the Buddha. Our Shambhala community of practitioners was established by the Vidyadhara, the Venerable Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, the former abbot of the Surmang monasteries in Tibet. Today, under the leadership of his son and heir, the Kungma Sakyong Jampal Trinley Dradal, we are a worldwide organization with members and supporters in over 50 countries dedicated to the Buddhist teachings on enlightened society. We have a special sensitivity to the human tragedy now unfolding in Myanmar because our old lineage holders, being of Tibetan origin, have themselves been refugees and experienced the dreadful consequences of violence and devastation. We write to you, fully aware that your council has already taken a strong stand to protect the fundamental and universal values of Buddha Dharma. You have sought to prevent sermons by the Venerable Ashin Warathu that incite discord and prejudice. You have also ordered the dissolution of his organization, Bamata, which among many activities has contributed to intercommunal misunderstanding, tension, and violence in your country. We also know that many individual members of the Sangha throughout Myanmar are working to prevent violence and are taking part in efforts to promote understanding and dialogue between people of different faiths and ethnicities. In this same spirit that we are writing to express our profound shock and sorrow at the many reports from within Myanmar and internationally of the extreme violence within the Rakhine state. This has affected people of all faiths and ethnicities in the area, in particular the Rohingya community. What we have seen reported is in direct contradiction of Buddhist principles and the statement of Aung San Suu Kyi on receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. Quote, ultimately, our aim should be to create a world free from the displaced, the homeless, and hopelessness. A world which each and every corner is a true sanctuary, where inhabitants will have the freedom and the capacity to live in peace. End of quote. We appeal to you at this critical time, as the foremost governing body of Buddhist monastics in Myanmar, to endeavor as far as possible under prevailing circumstances to take every step possible to uphold and spread the Buddhist teachings on universal compassion and loving kindness, and ensure that these principles are embodied in the treatment of all people within Myanmar, regardless of faith, ethnicity, or other characteristics. Continue to speak out about the preach out against the preaching of prejudice and intercommunal aggression in the name of Buddhism, and take all measures to dispersuade monastics and members of the lay community from engaging in acts of violence or hate. Use your influence with the civilian and military authorities to prevent further killing and displacement of individuals, to permit direct international humanitarian aid to the victims, and cooperate fully with United Nations and its specialized agencies in working to resolve this conflict. Support the government in its declared intention to implement fully the recommendations of the recent Advisory Commission on Rakhine State, chaired by former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan at the request of State Councilor Aung San Suu Kyi. She has said her government would take action on it, quote, within the shortest possible time, end of quote. We believe that open and generous support for this initiative from your committee would carry great weight with the people of Myanmar. Mr. Chairman and members of the State Sangha Mahananyaka Committee, we hope you will receive this appeal as our heartfelt wish that your nation be able to heal the wounds of discord and division, that all its people be respected regardless of their differences, and that the search for enduring peace may achieve its goal. We are open to exploring with you any dialogue with you or your representatives, and are willing to explore with you any ways in which we may possibly be of support and assistance. Respectfully yours, David Brown, Executive Secretary to the Kungma Sakyong Board of Directors, Shambhala. Allow me, if I may, I would like to share at this gathering together some of the Shambhala wisdom teachings. I would ask that for a moment all of us just be here. Feel this good earth beneath us, this magnificent fall foliage, include the sounds of the cars going by, feel the breeze, this vast blue sky. Let's just, for a moment, be here, and in that context, allow me to read this. Goodness dawns like the sun. It is not just an arbitrary idea that the world is good, but we can experience its goodness. The human potential for intelligence and dignity is attuned to experience the brilliance of the bright blue sky, the freshness of the green fields, the beauty of the trees and mountains. We have an actual connection to reality that can wake us up and make us feel basically good. Goodness can happen to us. In fact, it is already happening. Let's for a second, each of us, think of somebody dear to us. Another human being, our child, our partner, or maybe actually it could be any being. It could be a pet we love, whatever, wherever our heart is connected. Now let's extend that for each of us amongst each other, our precious little group here. And now let's broaden it and think of all the people in Halifax and in Nova Scotia and in Canada, in Europe, in Myanmar, in Somalia. And let's particularly think of the people who are suffering right now. And then let's think of the people who we think of as the persecutors, confused people who are bringing so much pain into the world. Let's hold them all in our heart for just a moment, here, now. And allow me to read this. The point of warriorship is to become a gentle and tamed human being who can make a genuine contribution to this world. The warrior's journey is based on discovering what is intrinsically good in human existence and how to share that basic goodness with others. And now, let's just for a moment recall why we came here today. What was at the core of our inspiration and our pain and our sorrow and our connection? We all made effort to get here today. You are willing to be awake in whatever situation presents itself to you. You feel that you can take command of your life because you are not on the side of either success or failure. And allow me to say, as far as we're not on the side of good and bad, of all that stuff, we're connected to our own deep, true goodness as human beings. Everyone. Success or failure on your journey in this state, the warrior always maintains loyalty to sentient beings who are trapped in the setting sun confused world. The warrior's duty, and that's each of us, is to generate compassion and warmth for others with complete absence of laziness. This is our discipline and dedication, which is unwavering. So to all our brothers and sisters in pain and love and beauty that we share this earth with, may we be open and helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. It means a lot to have representation from the Shambhala organization speak in unity with us. Now I'm going to involve the rest of you, just for 1 minute please, join us, bring out your loudest voice, and join me in this chant. Stop the killing, stop the crimes! Stop the killing, stop the crimes. Children killers, you can't hide! Children killers, you can't hide. genocide. Rohingya children, don't you cry. We will never let you die. Rohingya people, don't you cry. We will never let you die. No nickels, no dimes. No more money for crimes. Rohingya right, human right. Same struggle, same fight. We want justice, and we want it now.
We want justice and we want it now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
There's more? I'm going to save that energy. Now, it is an honor to introduce our next guest, which is Dr. Jamal Badawi. He is a professor of emeritus at St. Mary's University in Halifax, Canada, where he taught courses in management and Islamic studies and was granted an honorary doctorate, citing his promotion of a better understanding of Islam. He completed his graduate degrees at Indiana University, and Dr. Badawi authored some books, book chapters, articles on Islam, and a 352-segment television series on Islam. His research interest includes apostasy, gender equity in Islam, Muslim, non-Muslim relations, and Muslim contribution to civilization. He is a member of the Islamic Fiqh Council in North America and Europe and the International Union of Muslim Scholars. Please welcome, with a round of applause, Dr. Jamal Badawi.
My brothers and sisters, first of all, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be with you all. I have less than 3 minutes to say 3 things. The first message is the message of unity. We are all from diverse backgrounds, religiously, ethnically. How long we have been in this country, because we're standing here on the land that belongs to the Aboriginal people. We have variety of backgrounds, variety of thinking, yet there are certain things that represent the core that is in each one of us. I'm not saying that unifying thing is that we are all Haligonians or Nova Scotians or Canadians, but because we are all human beings. And as the Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, reminds us, you all belong to Adam. You're all the children of Adam. And he says, and Adam was created from dust. And that's a reminder. Most of the tragedies in the world, that we forget our origin and become too proud, too haughty, claiming superiority based on gender, race, nationality, and all these other things. It is that uniting thing that is beyond any other categorization that we can think of. The second message is to you who are here, and also all similar gatherings, not only across Canada and the United States, but maybe across the world, to thank you for being a voice for the voiceless. The voiceless who saw a woman who see her baby plucked from her hand, thrown into the fire and taken to be gang raped. So to see friends, neighbors being hacked to death, no wonder we find many influential people, statespeople, human rights organizations use terms such as genocide, ethnic cleansing, crimes to describe what has happened to the Rohingya people. So I pray that God would reward you immensely for volunteering to be the voice of the voiceless. The third is a message to our federal government. Please use your good offices to do more than what you did so far. It is not enough to condemn, or to abhor what's happening. You have powers that we don't have, and you represent us. We need something more concrete to stop these atrocities and to discourage anyone from committing similar atrocities. And I pray and hope that we all move towards a world where we have just, peaceful coexistence. I repeat, just, peaceful coexistence, and I put just before even peace, because peace has to be built on justice, and oppression and injustice is at the core of violence and lack of peace in this world. Again, thank you very much, and may God bless you, your family, and loved one. Peace be with you again.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Badawi. We are very grateful for you taking the time out along with all our wonderful other speakers. You cannot imagine how grateful we are, and we have some extraordinary speakers coming up as well. But first, Brother Essen has another list of demands that we are asking as part of this rally.
Thank you so much again, Sister Rana. So before I say, announce sort of those asks from the government, I want to thank Mr. Richard Peisinger and Dr. Jamal Badawi for your wonderful speech. There are, Sister Rana already mentioned about the importance of peacekeeping forces in place in the Rakhine state, because that's very important. People are fleeing for their lives, and close to 1 million people are already in Bangladesh, whereas you have 1.3 million probably Rohingya people in Myanmar. So that's very important. And the second sort of demand, request that we have from the government is that we take care of this. The sooner we have the peacekeeping forces, we'll be able to take care of the people, those who are still in Rakhine state. Because those who are in Bangladesh, even though they are in abject situations and quite often, compared to what I have seen 17, 18 years ago in a camp in that part, the situation there is really, really not good. They're suffering, they don't have medicine, they don't have food, they don't have drinking water. So we request the government that we airlift, humanitarian aid to all these places, because and we use the Canadian Forces Disaster Assistance Response Team to help people out, because Bangladesh, both in Bangladesh and Myanmar, it's very difficult for the aid agencies to reach out to the people and provide foreign assistance or humanitarian assistance, the food that the resources that the people need. So we want the Canadian government to do a bit more to make sure that they have those resources that they need for survival. And obviously the government has already provided money, and they are there, and recently an envoy has also been appointed, but whatever we plan to do, we do it quickly, because people, it's a matter of life and death. So we want to make sure that things are happening quite fast. Then the last sort of request that we have, the demands that we have, is that there should be arms embargo on Myanmar, because other countries are doing it. The United States and United Kingdom has already done it, so our government, the Canadian government, should do that. And there should be economic sanctions on Myanmar government officials as well as military officials, because those would help them to realize that, if there are economic struggles, they would feel that there is a repercussions for doing what the Myanmar government is doing. And let's remind ourselves that the Obama administration, lifted some of the bans, and yes, it's helping them to the so-called democratic transition, but there are problems happening too. So we have to remind the government that it cannot continue, and we request the Canadian government to work on those things. And with that,
with that, and our MP Andy Fillmore is here. With that, we will also provide you all these requests later on, hopefully soon enough. So at this point, we'll keep you on waiting for a few more minutes, Andy, if you don't mind. We request Rabbi Raish Weiss, if I am pronouncing the name correctly, to come and please say a few words, please.
Thank you, Brother Essen. Thank you, Sister Rana. It's an honor to be here with you today, with people of all ages and all different belief communities. But one belief unites all of us, and that is the belief in peace and the belief in everyone's right to live a peace and just existence. And so in that spirit, I hope that we can all pray for a peaceful resolution to this horrible, horrible campaign of violence and terror that the Rohingya people have had to suffer. As an American citizen, I moved to Canada in August of 2016 to serve at the synagogue here. As an American citizen, I'm especially concerned about the US government's involvement in what has happened. And I very much echo the recent letter signed by members of Congress to issue an immediate ban and end of all training of the Burmese military and call upon the US government to stop in supplying arms or any kind of training to assist in the atrocities in Myanmar. In our tradition, in Judaism, there is an ancient rabbinic teaching that it prohibits explicitly the selling of weapons or any kind of destructive element to dangerous people. And the medieval Jewish philosopher Maimonides further says that anytime we assist in the destruction, even via other people, we are actively aiding in the destruction of the world. So we cannot stand to see other governments do that. I am proud to be here in Canada, a country that has openly and officially condemned what is going on in Myanmar, the genocide and all of the atrocities. Testimony and aerial photography attest to the Burmese military's campaign of burning villages, of murder, of gang rape, of expulsion of people from their homes, which has led to an escalating refugee crisis. We cannot let this keep happening. It's happened too many times in history, and as Sister Rana mentioned at the outset of this gathering, it comes very close to home for someone like me, a Jew, who has seen what happened with the Holocaust. When we say never again, we mean it. Never again. To all of our brothers and sisters of the Muslim Rohingya community, we send our hearts, and not just hearts and prayers, but action. We need to send humanitarian aid. We need to donate. We need to do everything we can to make sure this cannot continue. The Rohingya community is not being acknowledged as the citizens that they are. They are being marginalized. They are a people with a 1,500-year history, and the parallels seem all too obvious to me. So today, I hold in my heart everyone, all the women, men, and children who've fallen prey to the violence in Myanmar. And I wish for the board of Trua, I hope I pronounced that correct, the rabbinic call for human rights. She hails originally from Chicago, and in August 2016, she and her family moved from New York City to Halifax. And what a great addition to our family. Thank you so much once again. And I'd like to echo her words, never again.
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
Next, with that enthusiasm, I'd like to introduce Muhammad Al-Batar. He is a young burgeoning activist, and I'm very proud to say I am very pleased to have met him. He is our local YouTuber video, what do I call it, celebrity. He is currently doing wonderful programs through his YouTube, sending out messages in a humorous way and explaining
the different situations that relate to Islam and the current situation of the day. Please welcome Muhammad.
Thank you very much, Rana Zaman. I appreciate it. Can everyone hear me well? So I'd just like to start off by saying thank you everyone for being here. And I just wanted to say that what is happening in Myanmar right now, it's nothing new. This has been happening for decades. Unfortunately, the people of Rohingya have been oppressed. They have been persecuted. They have been denied basic human rights. They have been denied citizenship in a land they've lived in for so long. For many years, they have been under this oppression. However, the public silence, media silence, has allowed this violence to escalate. And as a result, the UN is calling this ethnic cleansing. Unfortunately, the Myanmar government and de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi, who by the way is also a Nobel Prize winner, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, has refused to even acknowledge that this is actually happening and has refused to condemn it. The government of Myanmar refuses to even allow an investigation. And I mean, we can all just say, if there's nothing to hide, why are you afraid of an investigation? And unfortunately, we're all talking about foreign aid, but the government won't even allow foreign aid and assistance to reach the people who need it the most. So all I'm trying to say is that I know we can't solve all these world issues and we cannot solve this humanitarian crisis all in one go. But what we can do is the very first step, and that's to raise awareness. That is what I'm doing here. That is what you are all doing here. That is why we are here. And I would like all of us to know that although we constantly call this the Rohingya Muslim ethnic cleansing, this is not simply a Muslim issue. This is not simply a Muslim crisis. This is a humanitarian crisis. And we are all emotionally invested in this, as these are our brothers and sisters in humanity that are suffering. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for being a part of this. Thank you very much for helping us raise awareness about this humanitarian crisis. And as Dr. Jamal Badawi said, and as I like to end all my videos, Assalamu alaikum, and peace be with you. Oh, and by the way, I just have to say this, and also, please like, follow, share, and subscribe, That Muslim Guy, on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And thank you very much for being here, and thank you, Sister Rana.
Thank you so much, Mohammed, for your wonderful speech. So, at this point, I would request our Honorable MP and Parliamentary Secretary for Minister of the Democratic Reforms, Mr. Andy Fillmore, to come and say a few words. We have kept him on waiting for some time, but we are so glad that he's here. He is always involved with our community, and I acknowledge that whenever we have the occasion and we ask him to come and join us, he's always there. So thank you so much for your for doing so much in the community.
Thank you, Mohammed. It's a tremendous honor to be here with all of you, old friends and new friends, here on Mi'kma'ki today for this very important effort that these wonderful people have put together today to shine a light on this humanitarian crisis that the Rohingya people are facing. Is there anything truer than that wherever a person lives, where a man lives, a woman or a child lives, that they should have the right to happiness and to freedom and to live without fear and certainly live without violence? And isn't it just as true that no matter where a woman or a man or a child live, they can use their voice and raise that voice up to help people who need to have a voice of their own and to be spoken for. And so that's why it's an honor for me to be here with all of you today, because we're using our voice. We're using our voice here today. I came today to listen and to learn, not to talk, and you have given me much that I can take back now to our government. and I will do that promptly. I am happy to be able to say, as has been noted I think by one or two folks already, that our government has condemned what's going on to the Rohingya people. We have sent an envoy, and we have offered humanitarian aid in the amount of $2.5 million a few weeks ago at the end of September. It's not enough, and I'm hearing that loud and clear today, and that will be my message that I take back to Ottawa tomorrow. Thanks so very much for being here and doing this and for having me here.
Thank you so much, Andy. And I will say, Andy is one of the people who comes to the events and listens. Sometimes we're not always very kind with our words. We're polite, but we're strong voiced, and he listens. And I'm hoping he will really take this forward, our message. And in order to remind him, you all have to send him and your other MPs a letter stating your concerns, and your councillors. And Richard has always been a wonderful supporter of our organizations, which I also had mentioned earlier. But it's important to see our government officials at our events, because then they can see for firsthand how passionate we are about it. And although few show up, and we want to thank those who do, because you are the ones who care and take the time out to be there, but that doesn't mean the rest of Canada doesn't care. They're just not aware. But we few can make them aware. And if we can reach out just to 1 or 2 or 3 of our MPs, their voices should be loud enough in the House to make the difference. And they will help us to help the rest to listen. So thank you so much for coming out again, Andy. To all the amazing guest speakers that are here, we are humbled and so appreciative for all of you to take the time out to come and state your voices and show your support and solidarity. And let's not end it here, please. Let's take it forward. And I also want to point out a young man who's hiding in the background on the street holding that sign, "Stop Killing Rohingya," Mohammed Masalma, who's always in the background of these events. Please give him a round of applause. And there's another young gentleman called Ian Armstrong, who actually spearheaded this event and reached out to all of us, brought us together to do this, and he was unable to make it here today. But where is he? Oh, you made it. Come here, Ian, say a few words. This young gentleman is the spearhead for this entire event. And I'd also like to thank a very special man, Sheikh Abraham Al-Shanti, who is also very humbly standing there. I hope you can say a few words as well. Sheikh Al-Shanti, who helped with all these beautiful signs, shared the events, and gave us wonderful feedback as well. Would you mind coming here as well, please, Sheikh, and say a few words? But here is Ian Armstrong.
Right, thank you very much, sister. It's nice to meet you in person after so many emails. I'm not quite sure what to be saying up here. I didn't picture myself in front of everyone because this isn't an area of knowledge for me. I just felt horrible at what was happening, and I really, really want to thank everyone who came out to show that it's so important that we take action. Our government has said the right thing, and now, thank you. Our government has said the right thing about the Rohingya crisis, and now we have to do the right thing. And it's just so important that we take action, that we not let this chance slip by like we did in Bosnia, another genocide, where our actions were too little too late. So I really hope that that this message reaches people, and that there's a growing understanding that this needs to happen, and we need to take action as soon as we possibly can. There's not time to debate or talk about it, because it's happening now. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all, and thank you so much for being here. We as Muslims, as Canadians, as human beings, feel sad that this is going on today in Rohingya. A few months ago it was in other places, Syria, Iraq, and go on. This is shame on humanity to happen. bloodshed, killing kids, burning houses, and so on. And it's our duty as a human beings first to stand next to them, try our best to change the situation. I hope, inshallah, this will change, and I hope our government will move and do something right. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Would you like a few words, Brother Hassan, from your heart?
Well, I'd say a note of thank you to each and every one of you for coming here, for joining us. We really appreciate your time and energy here. We are feeling the spirit. Let's continue what we have been doing here. So please, I know that after the event we will be doing a few other things concerning this Myanmar crisis, and the Rohingya people should, they should not go through all these sufferings. So with that, I'll finish, I'll end, and I'll give the mic to Rana.
And we have Elder Allen, who's going to say another word for us.
I've gotten used to being silent, but that's all right. I would just like to say, before we close, that I pray that the Creator takes you home safe. But in doing so, gives your voice strength so we can carry on and stop the killing. Go in peace. Claudio.
Thank you once again. So we're going to end off with another chant. Rev you guys up before you go, but we really want to say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for coming out once again to all the amazing speakers. Each and every one of you are the true representatives of Canada and caring, and if you look around the diversity, it really is heartwarming what we can do together. So get ready, clear your voices and say, we say no to racist fear.
We say no to racist fear.
Rohingya are welcome there.
Rohingya are welcome there.
Hey, hey, ho, ho.
Hey, hey, ho, ho.
This racist war has got to go.
This racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho.
Hey, hey, ho, ho.
The war in Iraq has got to go.
War in Iraq has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho.
Hey, hey, ho, ho.
Aid to Myanmar army has got to go.
Aid to Myanmar army has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Rohingya cleansing got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Rohingya cleansing has got to go.
Suki, don't you lie.
Suki, don't you lie.
Because of you, children die.
Because of you, children die.
Suki, don't you lie.
Suki, don't you lie.
Because of you, people die.
Because of you, people die.
Hey, Suki, what do you say?
Hey, Suki, what do you say?
How many kids got killed today?
How many kids got killed today?
Hey, Suki, what do you say?
Hey, Suki, what do you say?
How many homes got burned today?
How many homes got burned today?
Not a penny, not a dollar.
Not a penny, not a dollar.
Don't pay for death squad slaughter.
Don't pay for death squad slaughter.
Justice is our demand.
Justice is our demand.
No peace on stolen land.
No peace on stolen land.
And that applies right here to Canada as well. Thank you, everyone. Stay blessed, stay peaceful, and stay united. Take care.